Okay, good evening. Does it work now? Nope. Hello? 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 Yeah, better, I think. Can we turn the sound down a little or on the microphone? Or? Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Public Art Commission's meeting on October 20th, 2022. We'll start this morning or this evening, excuse me, with our roll call. Commissioner Shen.
Present.
Commissioner Miyagi.
Present virtually.
And Vice Chair Waltuck.
Present.
And Chair Taylor. Present. Okay, any agenda changes, additions, or deletions?
Chair Taylor, I didn't know if you might want to consider, since we have some colleagues here from Public Works for item number 5, if you might want to switch that earlier in the agenda, or if you want to wait until we see if we have speakers to the murals item first.
We'll start with Public Works.
Okay, so do you want to move item 5 to item just after item 1?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
We'll start with our approval. Do we have any public comments, first of all? No, okay. Let's do our approval of minutes of September 15th to 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and roll call. Commissioner Shen,
Yes.
Commissioner Miyagi,
Yes.
Vice Chair Waltuck,
Yes.
and Chair Taylor, yes. Okay, city official comments.
There are 2 sets of minutes. We have minutes from September 15th and also minutes from the September 17th annual retreat.
Thank you, Nadia. Okay. We also need, of course, to approve the minutes from September 15th, our annual meeting. Oh, a retreat, sorry. Okay.
The September 17th
September
minutes have yet to be
17th.
approved.
Oh, I don't have that. That's why. Okay, these both say September 15th. That's why. Okay, September 17th, the annual meeting.
I move to adopt the minutes.
Second.
Approve the minutes.
Okay, and roll call, Commissioner Shen,
Yes.
Commissioner Miyagi,
Yes.
Vice Chair Waltuck,
Yes.
and Chair Taylor, yes. Okay, thank you. City official comments.
So we have some really exciting comments for you this evening and some really great eye candy. So let's see what comes up first. So today, okay. We're going to start with, you may recall just a few months ago, the commission approved funding to commission an artist to create new barrier covers in the California Avenue district. Artist Durba Sen, who had previously applied for our temporary murals program was selected. She created 8 original designs to go on those safety barricades that will help enliven the space and sort of follows the design direction of the CalAV district plan. So a couple of excerpts from her statement. She says, having grown up in the East, I love the color, smell, and fragrances of spices, flowers, and celebration of life in festivals and the hospitality of the people I've met during my travels in India and in other countries around the world. My art is an abstraction of my journey, observations, and celebrations in life. These works are called Joyous Moments. The Joyous Moments series were painted in the geometric abstract style with a focus on overlapping shapes and joyous, vibrant colors, which tries to incorporate the feel of the place. The rolling hills in the background, the colors and textures of food artistically arranged on a platter, beckoning us to take a bite, the interaction and celebratory moments between friends, coworkers, and family. The dynamic colors call out to take a minute to relax and unwind and enjoy life and celebrate the small wins that often go unnoticed. So those are the new artworks, and they are scheduled to be installed in November. Separately, after the commission approved funding for the barricade covers, the city manager's office reached out to us about creating new banners for the CalAV district and for the downtown district, and they funded that separately. And so Krista Faye Beams is one of the artists who also had applied to a previous opportunity with public art. And she created these banners that will be installed throughout the California Avenue district, interspersed with City of Palo Alto Uplift local banners as well. And her statement is, I was inspired by the long and narrow banner format and the context of the California Avenue as a local, unique, historically rich, and ever-evolving community. My designs feature plants in a way that emphasizes the patterns and paths of their growth creates, clustering, radiating, reaching. Laid out on the long surface, I interpret the plant vines, stems, and leaves as organic paths similar to the directional flow of foot traffic throughout CalAV on a bustling Sunday morning. The digital symbols interwoven throughout each piece contrast the organic paths, acting as architecture to flow around, under, and in between. Each symbol was generated using a program that I wrote that attaches action words to symbols. The symbols represented here include remain, belong, overcome, shake, taste, prepare, enjoy, and go.
Can I ask any questions?
Brief ones, yes.
Okay, how are these gonna be mounted, and are they on the lights?
Yes, they're good. They're on the posts, the lamp posts. The arms aren't there right now.
Okay, so they'll hang from an arm, and they're vinyl, just like the barricade ones, and those are
Yes.
the same as that go around the safety building. The same like vinyl.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long are these banners going to be up for?
We have to see what the lifespan is of them. Probably 18 months, a couple years. We have to see how they age. Okay, next item. So some updates on the art lift projects that we have currently up. Pets of Palo Alto. So all of those portrait sessions were printed. They are currently installed outside the Mitchell Park Community Center near where the basketball court is. So they'll be on view through Saturday, November 5th, and participants will be able to collect their portraits from the artist on that date. Mapping Palo Alto Together by Perry Meggs. Perry held a series of community workshops where people mapped their travels throughout Palo Alto during COVID and then post-COVID. And so here you have, she's overlapped dozens of people's maps on a before and after grid. So that's temporarily on view outside the Rinconada Library. Beacons of Hope by Kiana. She did a couple of community workshops last weekend, inviting the community to create these lanterns. And the lanterns were installed along Embarcadero Road, just outside the Palo Alto Art Center. And they're on view through this weekend, and they'll come down on Monday. The Factronauts, they have had a lot of fun popping up around Palo Alto. Their final performance will take place Saturday, November 12th at the Coverly Community Center between 12 and 2. That is also when the Coverly Artist Studios, the Open Studios event, will be taking place. And here's the slide for that. So the Open Studios will be 11 to 4, but if you want to see the Factronauts, it's between noon and 2. And this is just from today. Susan Zocola's 5 sculptures were installed along the Charleston and Rostradero corridor. I only have pictures of 3 because I didn't get to circle back after the last 2 were installed. They almost look like the renderings because they're so vibrant and bright. But we're really excited to see these sculptures finally go in. We began this process in 2016, and with the extensive delays and the phasing of the construction, it's taken us a little while to get this one landed. So we're thrilled to have those in place now. And that's it for staff comments.
Great, thank you, Elise. Nice work, everyone. Next we have, where is it here? Number 5, why am I? Oh, sorry, thank you. Adoption of the resolution first. Thank you, Nadia. Does anybody want to approve the adoption of resolution authorizing use of teleconferencing?
I move.
Second.
Roll call, Commissioner Shen,
Yes.
Commissioner Miyagi,
Yes.
Vice Chair Waltuck,
Yes.
and Chair Taylor, yes. Okay, now we're on to number 5.
Actually, Chair Taylor, the Public Works has
Oh,
requested we're moving faster than they anticipated.
Oh, okay.
So I suggest we stick with this, with the original agenda order, if that's all right.
Yes, perfect. Okay, temporary murals program. Thank you.
It's great that we're moving so quickly. But okay, so we're going to stick with item number 2, temporary murals program. And so this is an item that, of course, you'll recall we discussed a bit at the retreat in September. So this evening we wanted to talk through a little bit of what that process looks like. With the approval of the commission tonight, then we will go ahead and start generating the documents accordingly. So we're anticipating the timeline and process would be in November, assuming you all approve the staff to move forward with this. We would launch a call for artists to create a database of muralists. This database would not only be used for this pilot, but also be made publicly accessible for anyone who is wanting to self-fund a mural, so that we have that library available to them. Because we do get approached quite a bit. We only have a limited number of muralists in our pre-qualified pool, so we'd like to make sure we have a really robust pool. So we would launch that in November. We would have some time between now and January to work on generating the documents for property owners, as well as the logistics with legal for what those agreements would look like. So in January, we would put out a call for potential walls in the Cal Lab district. At that point, we will have documents that explain the process step by step, managing expectations about about what the application process looks like, that applicants would be able to indicate their desired or theme or style for artwork in their application prior to the selection process, and making clear that any artwork that is commissioned cannot be in conflict with the signage code. So for instance, if Molly Stone, say, wanted to have fresh produce on the exterior of their building, that would not be appropriate. So just managing those expectations up front. So then that puts us into hopefully February, potentially March. We would return to the commission with recommendations and funding allocations for up to 4 locations. At that time, then we would begin with artist selection. and Public Art Commission approval that would happen in March or April and begin the design development process. April or early May, the planning applications and approvals would take place as over-the-counter planning applications. They happen really quickly within a matter of days. And then we would be aiming for a May 19th to 26th Murals Festival. So any of the artists who are selected would need to make sure that they are available to paint the murals over the course of that week so that people can have the opportunity to come see them painted. Some of the artists may potentially want to invite members of the community to paint alongside them. But it makes for a really interesting way for people to see the progress over the course of the week. And so that's all I have for presentation. Questions?
Questions.
Mhm.
First thing, the call for artists, that list, the
Mhm.
artist roster,
Mhm.
that is it serves two functions, right? One is basically the pool from which we will be inviting artists to participate
Mhm.
in the murals funded by the city on private properties. And the second function is basically for public to reference in case. But private property owners, obviously, if they are going to fund their own mural, they can pick any artist they want, including outside of this list.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's number one. Second question.
Mhm.
In the application, in the artist selection and PAC approval
Mhm.
of selected artists,
Mhm.
those artists are already selected.
So the artists in the pre-qualified pool, it's a much larger pool.
Yes.
So we will go through a selection process, having a selection panel that'll recommend artists for the approved sites by the commission.
So let's say there are four identified opportunities,
Mhm.
and then we will match with a smaller pool of artists.
Mhm.
Question. Are the property owners, the private property owners, proprietors, are they involved in that selection process?
Generally, no.
Okay.
And that's been common with the outreach that we've done to other similar programs in other cities, that of course the property owner has ultimate right of refusal.
Okay.
But they do not participate in the selection panel process.
And it may be worth having that clarification because it
Mhm.
says PAC approval, but maybe having sort of the veto right identified for them, because it's like, oh my God, I thought I did this, and
Right.
yeah.
So
right.
that would be part of the documents that
Mm.
we would have prepared for the January launch, so that anyone wanting to put their wall forward has a full understanding of the process and how it works.
My recommendation is for just to have a clarification that this is not, just so that they know that they have a right of.
Right.
Right. And the last comment,
Mhm.
the May 19th, the mural festival, it
Mhm.
sounds like a very interactive public opportunity. And I wonder if we're going to do any type of documentation, videos, social media, sort of communication, and vlog or something like that for the community, because that could be of interest as well.
Yep, that's great. Thank you.
I was just thinking about sizing, and I was wondering, is there going to be a size minimum or a size limit to these murals, or it's kind of whatever the artist proposes?
It really depends on the walls
The
that are
walls, yeah.
proposed, and the wall, the available space will then drive the budget.
Okay, so do they have to, like, it's a beautiful day, obviously doesn't take up the whole wall, so it doesn't have to take up the whole wall though, right?
No, it
is that
wouldn't.
the expectation?
It wouldn't have to. I think we're gonna have to baby step our way through this. So we could say the budget is up to this amount, figuring that we probably want to use the majority of those walls, but it really depends on what the wall is like, how it's going to be experienced by the public. So I can't really answer that until we see what we get.
That's fair, and it depends on what the artist wants to. So.
Actually, I have a follow-up question.
Mhm.
So we haven't really talked about budget, and I think you suggested that maybe there are 4 opportunities, but like Nia said, it could be a huge wall, but we only have budget for a certain portion of it. Sort of going forward, this program, how frequently is this going to be an annual, biannual? How frequently do you think we're going to have opportunities to do this? And therefore, over a period of, let's say 5 years or however many years, how many potentially new murals can we see over Palo Alto?
Right. I think that is a great question. And because this is new territory for us, we really see this as a pilot. We're not going to get everything right this first time. So I think we sort of need to baby step our way through it. What we're thinking for this initial one is that the lifespan of these murals, the city will maintain them for 5 years. At that point, the agreement is that the property owner may paint over it or ask, that the city consider commissioning a new artwork there. But we don't know how frequently it'll be. Our thought was because we're concentrating so much effort on downtown for code art, that it would be appropriate to do something like this in a smaller district like Cal Ave and sort of divide the love between our two downtowns. Let's see how Cal Ave goes. And then it might make sense. Are we going to open this up citywide? Is there another district we want to look at? How do we want to proceed? So I think some of that'll become evident when we put out the call for walls. If we get a lot of interest from other areas of the city, we just have to see what we hear back.
Got it. And I guess just one more thought, because this is really, obviously, I'm so excited about this. Can you tell? It sounds like it's obviously a work in progress. We're developing, and this is a lot of interaction with the city and the community to see what the feedback and the excitement level is. And obviously, we'll tweak it and respond to get it right. But it's evolving, kind of like code art. You don't get it right the first time, you tweak it slightly, and then 2 years later, or maybe however long later, there are new opportunities as well. So we don't want to say it's a one-time deal, right?
I would assume that this is a pilot for something larger that will continue and have longer legs.
Good to know. Thanks.
I have some questions. So I'm still a little confused about the difference between so I understand people can apply, artists can apply, and my question is, one of the questions, can any artist apply from just California, from just the Bay Area, from the United States, from international? Do we have any restrictions around that?
No, we don't. I think especially if we're building this roster, that's a big diversity of artists. I think the bigger the better.
Okay. And then, so we're going to have a bunch of applicants for that. Are those going to be vetted by a panel, by staff, by the commission? How is that going to be determined?
Good question. Frequently that's done by staff for the pre-qualified pool. So it's a pretty generous, open call, because there may be artists that are less established where there might be a small mural project that's like on a utility box. That would be
Right,
fine for
perfect.
an artist. And there might be one that's a huge wall that you're not going to give to somebody who isn't prepared for that. So I think we would tier them into different scale opportunities.
And I think if the call, it could be anybody, it would be great to cross-reference location, because if people wanted someone Palo Alto or Bay Area based, or if they didn't care. And then, so that's the first thing. Then call for Cal Ave walls. The walls for Cal Ave are different than the mural festival?
No, the mural festival would take place in Cal Ave.
Okay, so the call for the 4 walls is going to be the California Avenue ones. Okay, and then I have one more question. For the so the calls will be different then for just the pre-qualified, and then for the walls, is there going to be any sort of thematic? Do we know this yet? Is there going to be any sort of theme or direction that's going to?
I think that the public art plan,
specified.
yeah, the public art plan is what we use to guide the designs there.
Okay, thank you.
Ben, did you have any questions?
I do. I think this is a great project. And like somebody was saying, kind of like when code art started. I think this is a great way to get this. And I think a mural mural, something project like this would be great. And if they last 5 years, if that's what the life expectancy that we're looking at, I think it's a good time span, because within that 5 years, we could have different types of materials and things come forward again. And maybe murals will last longer. Expanding that out into different neighborhoods, I think is a great idea. But this, I guess, pilot project on Cal Ave to get that started and see how that goes. And then staff gets a respite of 5 years and then go back at it again. So I just think this is a wonderful opportunity, and to expand it. I think that's something we need to look at further down the line.
Thank you, Ben. Any other questions, comments? Okay, I would like to approve the commissioning of temporary murals on private property and funded by the city. Is that enough? Second.
A second.
Okay, and roll call. Commissioner Shen,
Yes.
Commissioner Miyagi,
Yes.
Vice Chair Walczak,
Yes.
and Chair Taylor, yes. Okay, next we have deaccession of artwork.
Great. So Nadia is going to take the lead on the presentation for this. As you may recall from the brief staff report this time, it references the more in-depth staff report that came before you in June, detailing the history of the project, the reasons why staff is recommending deaccession, and making it clear that we divided there are two separate actions. The deaccession, which we're asking, which is a formal legal removal from our permanent collection. And then there is a separate item this evening to discuss the future of that wall and reproducing the mural as a temporary project. So with that, Nadia, are you ready? Nadia is going to walk you through some of the history and revisit the mural for anyone who may be tuning in now or later. And needs a refresher, and it's always good for all of us to make sure it's fresh in our minds.
Thank you so much, Elise, for this introduction. So presenting the deaccession item for the poetry mural today. So just to start off, I just wanted to walk you through the timeline and just the past of this item. Just to remind you about the positioning, location of the mural. So the Midtown poetry mural is located in Midtown. There's a few others permanent installations and murals located in that district of Palo Alto. As you recall, The Inner Life of Teenagers by Elizabeth Lada is just on the opposite wall of that plaza. The Greg Brown mural, orthodontist, is located also nearby. Beth Nyback's family of bears, Project Wild, can be found in Hoover Park, pardon me, just blanked on it. And of course, Go With the Flow, our pilot art crosswalks project was installed a few years ago just by Ohlone Elementary School. All these projects can be viewed at our virtual map and also the public art website. A collection page. So just to briefly walk you through the history, and just like Elise mentioned, a very detailed background report is listed in the staff report with you today. But the mural was initiated, the project was initiated back in 2002. Initially, it was actually initiated as a temporary project. The idea was to create a series of vinyl banners featuring five second place winners in this local poetry contest. And after that, paint a mural featuring the first prize winner. But back in 2003, I guess fabrication and material costs for vinyl were prohibitively expensive. So the Public Art Commission changed their mind and decided to paint a mural directly onto the wall and instead feature all 6 finalists of the project. By 2010, we documented severe discoloration and deterioration to the project, and just 2 years after, in 2012, the mural was completely repainted. In 2016, we conducted an assessment of the entire collection, including the murals in the collection, and the poetry wall mural was one of those assessed. The report is also listed in the staff report with you today, the findings of the report. In 2021, we received a call from the property owner concerned about the physical condition and the look of the mural. We invited art conservators with preservation arts to conduct a new condition report. The findings are with you. And based on that report, staff put together a deaccessioning request for the commission's consideration. So essentially, recommendation to approve the initiation of this deaccession process, which was approved by the PAC in June during our June meeting. But after that meeting, staff reached out to the authors of the featured poems, as well as the property owner, to notify them about the commission's decision from the June 16th meeting, and to move forward with the deaccession process for the mural as a permanent artwork from the city's collection. The authors were also notified about the 3 options that the commissioners directed staff to explore, which were restore the mural as a temporary artwork by repainting it directly into the wall with an expected lifespan of 7 to 10 years. Option 2 would be restoring the mural by the means of digitally printing it on aluminum, adhesive aluminum, and install it on the wall with a life expectancy of 2 to 3 years, and also explore options for commissioning a completely brand new mural. So one of the poets informed the public art staff about their preference to restore the mural as a long-term temporary piece by the means of repainting it on the wall. I'm not going to go into every detail about the findings by the conservators. The report is included, but just some images with, I guess, just the scope of issues in connection with the mural and its current condition here. So our recommendation today for the commissioners is to approve the accession of the poetry wall murals painted at 2605 Middleville Road from the permanent collection. And as Elise mentioned earlier, it's important to note that the recommendation to restore the poetry wall mural as a temporary piece and explore means for the restoration will come up as the separate item right after. Thank you. And we do not have any members of the public in attendance right now.
Okay, we'll open up to questions, comments, but I actually have one first. I'm a little confused, and I apologize if this is so easy to understand, but these lines, can you explain them?
Yes,
of the second
absolutely.
item?
So the conservators with the preservation arts provided this analytical report, if you will, outlining a scope of issues, problems with the mural. So they essentially group them by various types of issues, and the lines was just sort of like, just pointing to those exact areas across the murals. Yeah.
So for instance, like that's a crack.
Yeah, just kind of like a technical means of like visually exploring the issues.
Okay. I'll open it up to the floor.
I have a question about comments that Nadia, I think you mentioned one comment that one of the artists wanted that restored as a temporary mural. Were there any other comments received?
Yes, Commissioner Miyagi. So the comment that we received from one of the artists was actually the only communication that we received from the 6 featured authors. I believe we heard from the property owner expressing a wish to restore it as a temporary piece, but without any specifics by which means. That was left to the purview of the commission today.
Okay, so those are the only comments that were received?
What I can also add to that is that in just informal conversations that I've had with people about this item, they have expressed relief that it's going to be reproduced as a temporary work. And beyond that, there wasn't a lot of weighing in on the aluminum version versus the painted option. It seemed like in general, people really wanted to see it restored on some level.
Okay. Now, you saying that people are relieved that it's going to be restored as a temporary project. That's the item we're going to be voting on later?
Correct.
I think this did come up in the report, but was there a solution to the leaking wall? And will that come up in the next item? Or
Actually, there was a lot of investigation done into the wall. It didn't have to do with anything leaking into the wall or from the roof. It's a lot of the previous treatments trapping moisture into the surface. So that's why the wall has to be completely stripped to prep it for anything that would come next.
thank you.
My question is about conservation in terms of it's on aluminum, so hopefully it will be a little bit stronger and more viable long-term. But what is going to be our conservation kind of policy of protecting it if there's damage and things like that? What are we gonna do?
I would suggest we table that conversation till we get to item 4, where we're discussing the temporary piece.
Okay,
We're
well,
trying
I'm concerned though, like, so here's my concern with that is that I do want to be very transparent. Because one of the things I'm thinking about is that I don't want people to come back and say, oh, the mural's damaged or there's a nick or something, who knows what it could be. Are you gonna fix it? And then it's gonna be more money that we're gonna have to spend.
Just so I understand the ask, the ask is number one, we have to make a decision about the accession. And so the decision regarding the accession is so that it removes this particular project from our library and therefore the long-term burden of caring for it by the Public Arts Commission. And so once we make that decision, then we can decide on the repair part of it. What is the solution? How do we want to repair it? Right.
Thank you.
That's correct.
I totally blanked on that. Thank you. Yes. And so that will come up. When will we start talking about that?
The next item,
meeting,
number
right?
4.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Today's one of those evenings. I apologize. Okay. I'll motion. To do
I second.
session. Okay.
I want us to properly.
So motion, you're seconding. Okay. So moved.
So
Okay.
second.
Commissioner Shen, roll call,
Yes.
and Commissioner Miyagi,
Yes,
Vice Chair Walter,
Yes.
and Chair Taylor, yes. Okay, now on to temporary murals.
I'll bring it up in a second.
Excellent. So Nadia's pulling up a presentation and she's also going to take the lead on this because she's done all the research on this project to this date. But she's going to walk you through a couple of different options for reproducing the mural as either an aluminum piece or as a painted temporary piece. Go for it.
Okay, just struggling to share this slide because it seems like my computer is frozen. So I will have to walk you verbally, I guess, through this item. So the recommendation for the current item is to approve a reproduction of the Poetry Walls mural as temporary artwork, and staff requests funding up to $29,000 from the CIP fund to remove the existing mural, prepare the wall, and also reproduce the mural by the means recommended by the Public Art Commission tonight. So just to unpack the $29,000 cost to you a little bit. So a lot of this information is actually covered in the staff report for the previous item when we did this itemized estimate for what needs to be done. So essentially, given the poor condition of the mural, which is currently existing on the wall, in order to properly recreate the piece, the wall needs to be completely stripped of the existing mural and properly prepped and primed. We obtained several quotes for that scope of work, and that project landed us at $10,580. So that cost $10,000, 580 just for the removal of the existing mural, cleaning, prepping, and priming the wall. Then, as we provided these options to the commissioners earlier, there are two options for this reproduction of the piece as a temporary mural. The consideration is the lifespan in either case. So a more longer temporary option would be repainting the mural, using appropriate types of paint. So in this case, the life expectancy would be somewhere between 7 to 8 years. And that lifespan was determined by essentially, our previous experiences with the mural. The mural was painted twice, and twice essentially that was the life span of the piece. So we explored reached out to several vendors locally and received several quotes. So if that option would cost up to $18,000. Option two would be digitally print the mural on the adhesive aluminum substrate, just like the 8 pilot murals that we did during the pandemic years, and adhere it onto that wall. Just given the material and its qualities, right? The life expectancy for that mural would be $2,000 to $3,000. 2 to 3, oh my gosh, excuse me, 2 to 3 years, of course. And the cost was estimated at $12,000 and $540. So these are the options that we offer to the commissioners today. Let me know if you have any questions about the specifics of different means of reproduction and just what it entails.
Okay, first thing I want to make sure I understand is our decision to de-access this particular piece from the library is not conditioned upon the decision to have a temporary, it's not a condition.
No, it isn't. They are separate actions.
Right. Okay, so second question is this. In light of the prior proposal about the mural project, and because of the timing, because we were just looking at the timing for the 4 or 5 different steps that you're doing with the call, the opportunity for all these exciting artists. I just want to make sure that we're advocating for the Midtown residents, that it's not going to be fast forward a year later, there are these beautiful new murals in Cal Ave, and why is it that this wonderful wall was not considered for that opportunity?
I think that's a great question. The feeling we have gotten in our discussions with the Midtown residents is they're very, very attached to this poetry wall. So staff is projecting a bit, but I do think that if it is recreated as a temporary project and there are murals that are painted in Cal Ave, there may be more of an openness to entertain what's next for that wall.
I also think that another option that maybe hasn't been considered is to maintain the poetry, but have a different visual language or a different visual thing to go with it. Like, it doesn't have to be reproduced verbatim. So that's one, I just want to put that out there, that that's an option. Because I think your point is well taken, that if they're seeing all this vibrancy and this is a kind of an old design, I understand the nostalgic attachment, but if it's being taken away anyway. I also understood from the commission's point of view that when we talked about this before, we thought it was going to be a $10,000 project, and now it's like a $30,000 project. So, and when we compare it to other projects that we've done, like, you know, 40,000 for all the microlift grants and things, it seems like a lot of money for reproduction, deaccession. It seems like a lot of money for a repair that could be put to more exciting use. But I do understand nostalgia and connection and the pride that neighborhood feels.
Another thing I want to bring up is it's not about taking away something, but it's in hindsight. I don't want people to come back and say, we weren't given this, right? Like Cal Ave gets all this attention, all this newness. We weren't given this, where's our candy, right? Because when you restore something, it's not, you know, it's like taking away versus restoring something, and you keep seeing it, you don't think you're getting that gift because it's not new, right? So, you know, piggybacking on your comment, which is something that Nadia brought up, and I thought that was really interesting. The idea that the first part of this $30,000 project is being used to prep the wall before you recode it. And I just want to make sure that, because you have to do that, whether you're putting up a new mural, be it a new poetry wall, the old poetry wall, or some other type of mural, you have to prep it. That's the baseline. That money will be spent. So can we just make sure we offer the community, the property owners, an opportunity to look at it? We're going to spend the money to prep the wall, to say, revisit, you know, it's the next 15 to 18,000. And that could be different color or the same color, your choice.
Or different execution. I mean, that's, I'm just wondering if that could be a choice, and how much the neighborhood wants to get involved in making their voice heard. You know, I know that they've chimed in here. Could we give them the choice, like, you know, could this be part of some of the bigger mural projects that we're doing? could some of those real muralists be considered to re-implement it, things like that?
Well, that is something that was discussed at the initial meetings, and if you look back at the public letters, it's really about not losing that poetry wall. So I really feel like the Midtown residents have made it clear that they don't want to let go of that at this time.
And when you say that, you mean the current execution, the current look of it?
Yes, I think if we're going to start revamping it, that's a whole other redesign. We need to engage the
Oh, yeah.
artists. That's a whole other huge project.
Changing the font, I mean, that's a whole new game.
But I thought the artist was someone on the commission that put it together based on the poetry. It wasn't like really conceived of, is that incorrect?
The origin story is
the very
correct.
unusual part about that commission is that no artists were involved in the creation of this mural. The mural was painted by a painting company and was designed in-house, just using, word tools, available back on those days. So it's a very unusual case, right? The poets were featured and, they were contacted as part of this deaccessioning consideration process. But there's no actual artist who contributed to the project.
Was that part of the conversation? I wasn't here, but I did watch
Yeah.
I watched the section. Was that part of the conversation that it could be just still maintain all the poetry, but just executed in a different way?
I think the trick we get into is that we've just taken action to deaccession it from the collection. And then we're talking about re-engaging the community and the artists in a redesign of something on a temporary basis. Like it becomes a much larger project. So
It already seems like a large project being at this price point, right?
yes, but not from a staff bandwidth and community feedback. Like we would need to go back and engage the artists in this redesign as well.
But there's
Right.
no artist, I thought.
Well, the poets. I think there would be a lot of pushback if the commission were to just in-house redesign the mural and surprise the Midtown residents with the new presentation. I really do not think that that's going to go down well.
Yeah, the response, the public reaction, right? You change the color, it's going to be you took something away from me.
Are we projecting or is that?
No, because we're not, right? Like because it's circumstantial how this became a beloved piece of artwork. It's circumstantial. It, like Nadia said, it was originally intended to be something else, temporary, but it was more expensive to do that temporary thing. So that's why they painted it. It's all circumstantial. And also this was prior to the mural policy. This is prior to, so it became part of the collection before there was a rule about how a piece of artwork will be adopted and incorporated and adopted into the collection. So essentially, the Public Arts Commission took custody of this piece of artwork that was not qualified by today's standard. But you can't, you have to kind of respect it because it's now part of the collection. You have to respect it. So you have to go through the process of deaccessioning it. And I think what Elise is saying is $30,000 is a lot of money, correct. The resource, the communication, back and forth with the community would also be extremely resource intensive if we do something, make a decision that makes the public feel like we bait and switch on them.
I think the other piece of that is that it becomes very confusing. The objects are confusing, like we deaccessioned it, but we're going to engage the community in a whole new design process for essentially revamping the same piece. I think it becomes a very confusing process.
Well, I'm confused myself now. We previously deaccessioned this piece. Now we're turning around and going to reproduce it again and put it back up temporarily when it was a temporary piece anyway. So that is a little confusing to me. If we deaccession the piece, we deaccession the piece. Well, I think this is a great opportunity to use that wall for some other type of mural. And as Lisa was saying, $30,000 is a lot of money. And that could be well spent on a new type of mural, a new design, get the community involved in that. I think it's a good opportunity to invite community participation in a new mural. I'm like I said, I'm confused about deaccessioning the piece and then turning around and recreating it.
Thank you, Ben. I have two questions, kind of, I think that will give us maybe more insight to your feelings, Ben. And I'm gonna go back, conservation, that's my first question, how it's gonna be conserved if we end up doing reproducing the mural with another substrate. And then also, how much money do we currently have in our CIP?
That I would have to look. It's a much larger number because it's 1% of all CIP projects. So that has everything from public safety building, fire station 4, Susan Zokola, and some funds that are unearmarked. I think another piece to keep in mind is that $30,000 isn't necessarily going to commission a new artist, a design development process, and something that will cover that whole wall. As Nadia said, there was not an artist involved with it. It's an extremely large wall and an extremely large mural. So we're looking at a much bigger price tag if we're going to go a whole different direction. And that was not the direction the previous conversation was headed. So I'm a little surprised.
And just so, this is the way I remember it. The way it was explained to me, and the reason why the public was so, I think it had such a strong reaction was because they thought deaccessioning the piece meant that tomorrow someone's going to go and paint over it. But that was not the case. There's still a commitment to repair it. It's just that by deaccessioning this piece, this commitment isn't forever.
Can I just ask you, I just want to clarify, do we have that action item, or of what we agreed upon last time? When we, because June, do we have, does anybody remember? So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, because I mean, I think, we're entitled, to think
Yeah.
about something and
Just
change our kind of mind a little bit.
Just
so
a quick clarification. So the process of deaccession is a 2-step process. In June, we came to the commissioners with a request to approve the deaccession procedures, right? And so it takes 3 months to do that. It takes appropriate public notification and all the stakeholders notification to proceed with that, collect public input on the item, presented back to the commission. So in June, we initiated that commissioning deaccessioning process. Today, this previous item, the commission approved the final deaccession of the piece. So the piece was deaccession from the permanent collection. And this item we're discussing means of reproducing it as a temporary piece.
Right, I understand that. Thank you for clarifying. But my issue is, at one point we were talking about the idea. I don't think we said we wanted to do it. I think the idea of reproducing the mural. So that's why I'm concerned with the language, Cindy, not to put you on the spot, that you use, that I don't think you agreed that we're going to reproduce it. I think it was just a discussion.
So if you
if I'm recalling right, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page with that.
So in the staff report, right, it outlines the 3 options that were discussed at the meeting. So it was A, restore the mural as a temporary artwork by repainting the mural with an expected lifespan of 7 to 10 years. B, restore the mural as a temporary artwork by reproducing it on adhesive aluminum with an expected lifespan of 2 to 3 years. Or C, commission a new temporary community mural on that wall. And the request at that time was to explore with the community, is there an appetite for that? We did not hear support for a new mural.
Thank you. That's why I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, that I didn't think we said that we were gonna go in a different direction, in a certain direction.
And I guess that's why I brought up something that's a bit of a hybrid. So maintaining, if we're saying the artists are the poets, maintaining the poetry and perhaps changing the execution or implementation, as in the 20-year span since it was painted and conceived of, there's been a huge, I would say, growth in Palo Alto Public Art. There's been a raising of standards. There's been a gathering of artists that are pre-qualified, and I understand that it could potentially affect staff's energy and time, and I'm wondering if it could be handled, for instance, like you just did with the California banners and barricades, where you look at, the pool of artists that submitted for the safety building, or take some existing artist or submission and apply it to something like this. So just trying to see if there's opportunity or appetite to do something like that that still maintains the integrity of the poetry.
So I think it would be challenging to get an artist who wants to translate that poetry into a new visual. It does become its own project. It is a different direction than what we have communicated with Midtown residents. So this would be a change in direction on top of a property owner who reached out to us more than a year ago because they're unhappy with the look of what's there. So that would definitely be kicking the timeline of correcting what's on that wall pretty far down the road.
And just to clarify, the property owner was just upset at the damage to the wall, not what it looked like.
They're unhappy with the look of the existing mural because it's fallen into such disrepair.
That's what I was asking.
And it's our responsibility because it's part of the collection, right?
It is, now that it has been deaccessioned, it is not part of the collection, but the property owner then, may decide, I'm just going to paint the wall, and we lose it as a potential site for murals.
And Lisa, to your point, who knows, maybe if we decide to not to just have a new mural commissioned, that maybe somebody will say, oh, I'm gonna apply and use the poetry as their
Now,
canvas.
Let me
potentially. But
understand.
Can I just 1 second, Sonia? I don't know, Ben, I can't see you. Did you have anything you wanted to say? Just because you're also.
No, I'm good.
Okay, Sonia.
Okay, let me understand. So in the 3 months process where you were preparing for phase 1 of the accession, there you reached out to the community, you proposed these 3 different directions to them. Was there an expected timeline? Is there an expectation of, what is the phase 1 of repair gonna be? And then obviously it sounds like it's gonna be A or B because that's what the owner and also what the poets are recommending. No one has an appetite for C. Is there a sense of what the timeline looks like for them?
Yes, so the discussion we've had with everyone involved is the final action will come to the commission in October. 30 days later is when we can begin work.
Got it. Okay.
So I'm actually gonna motion to actually create a new mural. And not to refabricate in a different substrate, the current mural. I'm gonna stop there.
So do we take a poll for that or how do we?
Well, you would see if there's a second for that motion. Otherwise, if there is no second or someone would like to put an alternative motion on the floor, they may do so.
I second.
Okay, roll call. Commissioner Shen,
No.
Commissioner Miyagi,
Yes.
Vice Chair Walczak,
Yes.
and Chair Taylor, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, next.
Is there a procedure for reconsideration?
Once the action is taken, no. There was an opportunity if you wanted to put an alternative motion on the floor.
Uh-huh.
The chair could reopen for that if you have another motion.
I would like to make a motion for reconsideration or an alternative proposal. And the reason for that is because I think we have done a lot of socializing. The community has shown up, they've expressed their interest. And in the June meeting, the way we explained the de-accession process to them, which is exactly the way it works, is we're just removing the de-accession process is just removing this piece of artwork from our permanent collection. And we said to them that that is not tied to destroying this artwork. We made that clear. We had people that came and spoke. Now, in the de-accession process, the 2 staff members and maybe more have gone to the community, consulted with the artists, consulted with the community member, consulted with the property owners, and they came back and say, we like to have this, the look of this a little bit more. That's why they opted for a temporary restoration. So my motion would be, piggybacking on the de-accession, my motion would be for the next step, we allow and help the property owner restore the property, the walls, and put up the proposal 2, which is the 2 to 3 year solution. And then in this 2 to 3 year time period, we will have additional murals pop up in Palo Alto. It will change the collection of colors around Palo Alto. And maybe in those 2 to 3 years, this wall and the community around it will be ready for new colors on that wall. So my proposal would be to move for B, restoring the mural as a temporary artwork by reproducing it on adhesive aluminum with an expected lifespan of 2 to 3 years.
Is there a second?
Okay. I hear no second on that.
Okay, our next action item is.
Do we have to
I don't think you
re-vote
have
with
to
the
re-vote.
original motion? Do you know, Vice Mayor Koo?
No, there was no second, so it wasn't supported.
Okay.
But I do appreciate your efforts, Commissioner Sin.
I know a lot of letters came.
Okay. Next we have our fire station number 4. And thank you. Is it Valerie? Is she the one waiting? Thank you, Valerie, for your patience. Good to see you.
Good evening.
Good evening. So we're really happy to have Valerie Tam from Public Works Engineering joining us this evening to talk us through Fire Station 4. It is always fun to kick off a new project, and this one is just at the beginning stages. So this evening we are talking about the allocation of funds for this new project so that we can go to the pre-qualified pool of artists and begin our artist selection process. So with that, I think Valerie is going to talk you through sort of the sketches of where the design of the building is now, keeping in mind that quite a bit of it will probably change as it goes through the approvals process. And then as we go through it, we'll point out some already identified potential areas for art integration. Valerie,
Great.
it's all yours.
Thank you, Elise. Good evening, commissioners. We are presenting the Fire Station 4 number 4 replacement project to you tonight. So just to give you the current scope of the Fire Station 4 replacement project, this includes demo of the existing fire station. So this is a new construction build. It will have 3 apparatus bays, one that is reserved for reserve engine and 2 drive-through bays. Similar to Fire Station 3, there will be a captain's office and a study area for the crew located near the lobby. Fire Station 4 will have a training room that will also serve as a backup EOC during emergencies. And firefighter living quarters will be built to house a 5-man crew. So what's nearby Fire Station 4? The station's noted with that really small red star in the middle of this map, located at the corner of Middlefield and East Meadow. We have the neighboring cities of Mountain View and Los Altos, and a very large residential population surrounding it. Major streets such as Middlefield, El Camino, and Alma serve as Palo Alto's major connections for commuters leading to San Antonio Road and 101. And Charleston Rasadero is a major thoroughfare for pedestrians and bicyclists. Furthermore, highlighted in bright green is the city's designated safe routes to school. Many children walk or bike to school using these routes near Fire Station 4. So the corner of Middlefield and East Middle can be quite busy before and after school due to the amount of students traveling through the intersection. So as we look into the immediate surroundings of the station, Utilities has an electrical substation that shares the same parcel as the station. So it's highlighted in dark blue just underneath the red star. 2 churches are nearby, as well as the Palo Alto Little League field, which is adjacent to the utility substation. Many of the city's community facilities also surround the station, such as Mitchell Park Library and Community Center, and Magical Bridge. And then Coverly Community Center is just down the road, down Middlefield. And as mentioned before, with the Safe Routes to School, there's plenty of schools right near the station. Students attend JLS, as well as Fairmeadow and Hoover behind the fire station. And lastly, the Charleston Center Shopping Plaza around the corner on the next block. So we are currently wrapping up the schematic design phase with BRW Architects, our selected architect for the project. And we have several massing options to consider. So the images that you'll see on the next few slides will show the various options, but the overall style is similar in each. BRW Architects will be presenting material options in the next few weeks to city staff in preparation for ARB. So taking a look at this slide, consistent in the design of all the options include a public lobby at the corner of the block as shown here. The existing large trees that surround the station will remain, and the one on the corner will be a focal point in the design. Because this corner gets busy again, like from the amount of bicyclists and pedestrians during school, we are looking to expand the corner for them as a way to cross the intersection. And then also here you can see the existing driveway on Middlefield will be for the exiting of the fire department's vehicles. Here we have an aerial view of the schematic design, one of the schematic design options. You can see that larger courtyard in that corner. And our current floor plan divides this station into living quarters on the left, apparatus bays in the center, and the public lobby, offices, and training room on the Middlefield side, which is right on the right of this image. Here's another view of the training room, but from the back. Visitor parking will be located behind the training room. And also, since we will be having drive-through bays, the fire department's vehicles will be entering the station off of East Meadow, which is the gray area you can see a little bit closer in this image. So after receiving feedback on these massing options, BRW will continue with design development. So our next steps include submitting the project for ARB approval and then hosting community outreach meetings after our first formal ARB session. And then we'll move into the preparation of our construction documents. Construction is anticipated to start in spring of 2024 and be completed in fall of 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. Valerie, any questions from the commissioners or comments?
Was this the part where you were going to identify certain areas for potential artwork?
Yeah, I was just going to jump in with
Okay.
that Primarily because it is a heavily trafficked corner and there are lots of utilities underground. We're primarily looking at the building to have something that could be architecturally integrated. So something most likely along that middle field road facade, because the tree canopy is quite a bit higher. So you've got good visibility from bikes, vehicles, and sidewalks there. But we are exploring some, on the other side of the building as well. So we'll begin this process as the project itself and the building design gets refined. We'll get an artist on board and get them to join the design team as soon as possible.
So by join the design team, you mean work with the architects?
Yes. So at this time, what we are requesting is an allocation of CIP funds in the amount of 110,000, which includes a 10% contingency to begin the process for the integration of public art for Fire Station 4. So we would plan to hold one of our normal panels of 7 people, including a public art commissioner, to come up with a final selected artist. That artist would come back to the Public Art Commission for approval. Upon that approval, we'll draw up the contract. Because the contract is over $80,000, it has to go to council. So it's going to take a while before we can actually get the artist moving. But once they get under contract, then they can join the design team. They come up with a design. The design comes back to the Public Art Commission for approval before they get into more detailed design and fabrication.
Sorry, maybe you said this at the very beginning. So this is a separate artist call. It will be an artist. If approved, it will be an artist call.
We will pull from our pre-qualified pool.
Oh, so it will not be an individual.
It will not be a separate call.
Okay.
Ready for motion?
Go ahead.
I move.
I assume to approve.
I move to approve the proposal.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, roll call, Commissioner Shen,
Yes.
Commissioner Miyagi,
Yes.
Vice Chair Walczak,
Yes.
and Chair Taylor, yes. Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you.
Okay, next is the adoption of priorities for 2022-23.
So if you recall, way back in September, when we had that retreat, you all did a little wordsmithing of the priorities. So this is a formal follow-up to our retreat. We usually go ahead and adopt the priorities. You've had a little chance to think on it since we convened. So Nadia will bring up the text in
That'd be
case
great.
you all want to do any wordsmithing at this time.
Great. I've been thinking about number 2. And this is something that Nia has suggested. And initially, I didn't think it was necessary. But number 2, the inclusion of ethnicity, ethnic and cultural inclusion. I've been mulling over the word ethnic in light of the heightened international political tension. And the context is this. I think while we want to actively include, we don't want to accidentally exclude people due to carelessness of, language or aggression towards certain ethnic group in light of the current political climate. And that's why I would recommend that we include the word ethnic, insert the word ethnic and in front of cultural in number 2.
Thank you. If maybe cultural should be at the end then, perhaps, just because that's, I mean, culture can be described in many ways, I think. But I'm wondering maybe if that should be at the end. And since we're talking about inclusion, it's a tricky one, social justice and what that entails. But I'm wondering, I don't want to get into religion, but I don't know if we need to address that or not, now that we're addressing other groups. Anybody have any thoughts?
I don't think you want to include religion. That's not social justice. And we have freedom of religion through the First Amendment.
Good point. Thank you. Lisa, did you want to add something?
I think that this gets at our intention pretty well and covers a lot of bases without starting to get into difficult territory. But I did want to make another point, which is, maybe this is in light of our previous topic, but we have very good ideas around community, social justice, education, but we don't have anything around kind of quality of aesthetics or art itself, and just keeping a level of art. And is that important to us as a city?
It is incorporated into the mission of the public art program.
It is, okay. So is that adequate then? That covers us, is that your point?
I just raise it.
Okay.
If you want to add it in here, that's up to you, but I did want to point out that it is in the mission of the public art program.
Okay.
And these are our yearly goals, right? Our yearly priorities. Whereas the other part is covered in the more broader mission of the commission.
Spell check. Anyone want to make a motion?
I move to adopt the priorities for this year.
Second,
Okay, roll call. Commissioner Shen,
Yes.
Commissioner Miyagi,
yes.
Vice Chair Walczak,
Yes.
and Chair Taylor, yes.
And I do just want to clarify, you're approving them as amended this evening? Yes.
Yes, as amended.
Okay. Any, I guess, any exciting things happening that we should know about? Because I think we're done with action items.
Just open studios November 12th.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.